watch out for any deer. Woo! Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. At this price, this thing is getting cross-shopped with some weird stuff. BMW X5 Plug-in hybrid? Sure. The new GMC Sierra Denali? I mean, totally. A fully loaded Kia Telluride with a Corolla Cross thrown in for good measure? Why the heck not? Now, before you get your pennies in a twist, can I still say that? I'll have you know that I liked the Acura TLX Type S. I liked it a lot. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot to like about this Acura MDX Type S, but we're so far into the twilight zone in regards to what vehicles cost now that literally anything can be cross-shopped with anything once you cross the sort of $50,000 to $60,000 barrier. So why should you consider the Acura MDX Type S, and just how much money are we talking about here? We'll get to the money in a second, I promise. But first, I want you to take it all in. Take it all in. So you can decide if you think the MDX Type S is worth it when you hear the price. Or maybe you've already looked up the price right now, and I wonder if you think it's worth it. Comment down below if you're cheating and you already think that it's worth it. From a styling standpoint, you could look at this in sort of one of two ways. It's an already handsome family SUV, made even handsomer by the Type S's sort of aesthetic enhancements, or that this is sort of too conservative and not eye-catching enough to play in the upper echelons of the luxury SUV market. What's an echelon, by the way? Like, seriously, I was an English teacher for 17 years. I'm not even sure I understand what an echelon actually is. I just wanted to sound smart. Look, an MDX.
What in the world can that be?
Personally, I think these styling enhancements work. The MDX was already sort of a wide-ish looking family SUV, and the aesthetic enhancements from the Type S sort of front fascia and black trim make it appear even sort of wider and sportier, also complemented by these pretty gorgeous 21-inch wheels. So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of any time you replace chrome trim with black trim, and I think the MDX wears it well. I know the silver paint isn't the coolest thing ever, but I think it looks pretty good. I mean, as far as three-row family SUVs go. It's not as obvious from the rear, but the little wannabe diffuser and fat exhaust pipes back here really, you know, kind of liven up the boring three-row SUV look. So I'm a fan. And have I mentioned that the wheels look fantastic? Because they really do. So all good, right? Take a solid-looking family SUV, add a bunch of horsepower, add some handling, make it even better looking, and you got a winner. Well, I've got mixed feelings in here. Don't get me wrong. It's got all of Acura's bells and whistles. You've got heated and cooled seats, a heated steering wheel, you got heated rear seats, you got a Panos sunroof, you got Acura's incredible ELS Studio 3D audio system, or whatever it's called. It's got these excellent Type S seats and this excellent steering wheel. I really, really like Acura's sporty steering wheel. It just feels so awesome in the hands.
That's what she said.
But there's a lot of piano black plastic in here, especially around the climate control buttons, where it's gonna get filthy and fingerprinty, and the climate control sort of button area doesn't look super awesome in general. And even though the overall design is nice and the materials are pretty nice, I mean, it's soft touch, pretty much everywhere, you got lots of leather and everything. When you get up to this vehicle's as tested price, it doesn't feel quite as special. It's a much tougher sell when you cross the $70,000 barrier.
Inconceivable.
And like the TLX, the driving position in this is so freaking good. There are not a whole lot of vehicles that I can get my 6'6" self into such a perfect driving position, especially family vehicles. And this thing, I love the driving position of the TLX and the MDX. They just fit so good. The seats fit so good. The steering wheel feels so good. And the seat is really adjustable. That is one of the most impressive things I think about driving these vehicles, is that the adjustability. There are not many vehicles that have the sort of breadth of adjustability so that someone my height can get enough leg room, but then the steering wheel also comes out far enough that I can bring the steering wheel out so far in this thing that it's like weirdly close, and that's just absurd. Like I can't think of another car off the top of my head that I can do that with my long arms. So I really appreciate that Acura builds that into these everyday family vehicles. The TLX and the MDX are very easy to dial in if you are a freakishly sized person. And I've already had the MDX. I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail about the gauges and infotainment. You can check out my original review. Not a lot has changed on that front. I still sort of apologize for Acura's infotainment system. I don't mind it all that much. I think it makes sense. I like that it's trying to be up by your line of sight. I also think the digital gauge cluster, it's not super crazy customizable, but it's nice and clear and it does cool things. Kind of like the ambient LED lighting, which looks really good in this vehicle. And I've said this, I've kind of dinged Lexus a couple times for this. If you're going to play in the sort of above premium market, you're gonna play in the luxury market where Acura and Lexus aspire to be, you need some of these gimmicks. And at this car's as tested price, you need to have a little bit of that pageantry, a little bit of that theatrics going on. And I think that the MDX sort of delivers on that. This is a very expensive family SUV, but it feels like it's trying in some areas. Now, in terms of the overall design and layout, I'm just not sure it's there. I talked about this in the interior portion. I'm not going to rehash it, but I think there are some aspects of the technology, the giant Pano roof and stuff like that, that feel appropriately luxurious. And it is nice that someone my size can more or less fit behind someone my size. And it's also nice that, like I said, the rear seat passengers have their own heated seats and their own third zone of climate control, so that's good. It's a fairly spacious second row. The third row's fine for children. I wouldn't try to fit any adults back there. But unfortunately, the MDX Type S's sort of svelte styling and sloping roofline kind of eat into cargo space a little bit. So since the Type S isn't any different from the standard MDX, that means it only has 16 cubic feet of cargo space behind the third row, which that's not bad, but it only has 39 cubic feet of cargo space behind the second row, and that's quite a bit less than most of its mainstream competitors. In fact, for your information, that is barely more than a BMW X5. It's about the same as the Mazda CX-9. It's notably less than the Lexus GX460, which has such old school charm to it, and I kind of like that vehicle. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. And it's just over half, just over half of what you get in a freaking Chevy Tahoe. Just over half.
That doesn't make sense.
I want to show you guys something that I think is really cool about the Type S. The Type S has air suspension, which is unique to the Type S. And so I found comfort mode to be very comfortable, like ridiculously comfortable. I'm going down the Handling Road right now, and if you're new to the channel, the right side of the car is being absolutely battered by these potholes and undulations, and you can't even tell because this thing just glides over them. On a road like this, there's a little bit more motion than I like, but honestly, I had the Mercedes GLS, the big one, on this road, and it was not any better. In fact, I kind of complained that it was moving around too much. This Type S in comfort mode is incredibly comfortable, like really comfortable. I would drive it like this a lot of the time. In fact, I would probably customize into the individual settings because I have a few issues with the powertrain responsiveness. And the air suspension can raise it up for like, I think it's 2 inches in its highest mode in case you want to like go over something. I don't know why you would in this vehicle. And it can lower it by another 1/2 inch in sport mode. So there's like 2.5 inches of adjustability from the highest to lowest settings. Also, the auto start stop in this is like really good. It's one of the best auto start stop systems that I've ever driven. So good job. But that's fine, right? I mean, all that's fine because this has a turbocharged V6 engine making 355 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, so it's fine, right? And it has a 10-speed automatic transmission, so that's fine, right? And it has super handling all-wheel drive, so that's fine, right? Well, not quite. So powertrain stuff. What is 355 horsepower like in a mid-size SUV? Well, it's fast, but it's not like stupid fast or scary fast. This isn't like one of the German rocket sleds that's like normal people don't need that kind of power. You know how normal people don't need an AR-15? It's appropriately fast, and I would argue that it's kind of what the MDX should have been all along. I mean, it really livens up the chassis. Let's take a second and see what it's like on the real handling road, the one that I take like, you know, Supras and stuff on. All right, I got everything dialed in. We're going down the real handling road. Let's take it. Engine sounds good, like it did in the TLX Type S. Immediately the suspension firms up and we're in silly land right now, going through this little forest cavern that I have by my filming spot. And I'm not gonna go too crazy because this is a large SUV, but I mean, it is pretty silly that this thing can do what it can do on this road. The steering is the biggest improvement. The steering accuracy feels so good in this sport mode. I mean, it's just night and day. In comfort mode, it's like, meh. And in this mode, it's just like, yeah, let's go. Let's dial it in. The suspension's not that bad. I almost feel like in Sport Plus, they could go crazier. All right, let's turn around and go back. Do it again, just to be sure. For science.
It's science.
All right, floor at 355. See, it's a lot. I mean, it's there. You feel that power, but it's just, it doesn't get away from you. Like, it's enough to motivate this thing. Now, going back in this direction, this road gets a little gnarly with some of the bumps. Let's see how the Sport Plus suspension and the air springs sort it out right around here. There's a pretty nasty dip coming up. Watch out for any deer. Woo! Okay, there we go, there we go, there we go. See, it's kind of ridiculous that this vehicle can do that kind of stuff. And so it is kind of fun. It does bring a smile to your face. I do think that the 10-speed automatic transmission is a pretty good example of balancing kind of smooth luxury here in comfort mode. It's almost imperceptible with faster upshifts. I did complain in the TLX Type S that even in the most aggressive mode though, I don't think it's aggressive enough. I think in the most aggressive mode, it needs to be like stupidly aggressive because the car hunkers down and it like gets after it. And I feel like the powertrain deserves for the transmission to kind of rifle through those shifts a little faster. I mean, in comfort mode, you have this super smooth transmission. So why not have this absurd level in Sport Plus? Really, the best comparison to the normal MDX, if you guys are wondering, it's like the regular MDX, but everything turned up to 11.
These go to 11.
But I kind of feel like that's how it should have been from the start, or at least in A-Spec trim. That was one of my complaints about the A-Spec trim, was that I felt like it needed to be more of a stepping stone to this. Unfortunately, this is sort of saddled with everything that I didn't like about the TLX Type S. And please, please let me preface that by saying, I actually really like the TLX Type S. There was something endearing about it. But I don't know if in the driving experience that translates to this larger family SUV. For example, the steering wheel feels great and it is accurate, and in sport mode it's pretty quick, but there's really no feel. And so I found myself in sport mode sometimes like being surprised by the quickness of the steering because there's just no feel there. And so you turn in and you're like, oh, whoa, that's like a lot of steering angle. And it's because it's just numb. Also, the pedal calibration is not great, and one way worse than the other. The throttle pedal is not bad. I feel like it's a little too lazy and normal in sport mode. Like right there, I made a slow turn and I kind of pushed down on it and it's like, oh, really? You're gonna, okay, let's go. And that's a little irritating because this is a Type S. Even in comfort mode, I want it to respond. And in sport mode, I don't feel like it's that much better. I feel like the steering sharpens up and the suspension, of course, sharpens up, but I don't feel like the throttle sharpens up in kind of tandem with those other dynamic features. The biggest complaint though, by far, and I said this about the TLX Type S and it's true on the MDX Type S, the brake pedal sucks. It sucks. It is the worst part of this vehicle. I don't mean that it won't stop. You stand on that brake pedal and you'll go through the windshield. The brakes are powerful. I mean, the feel of it is just laughably bad. It's just awful. It's not consistent. It's not linear. You press a little bit. Sometimes you get a lot. Sometimes you get a little bit. Sometimes you get medium. Sometimes you get a side order of fries. Like, it's just ridiculous how inconsistent the brake pedal feel is in a vehicle with this powertrain, this power, with an air suspension, adaptive suspension. Like, it can do all these things, 355 horsepower, and yet you have this brake pedal that when I push down on it, it just doesn't have a consistent feel. Not to mention the brake pedal itself doesn't feel super good. There's kind of a dead spot the first like couple centimeters of travel. Hello, metric system. I don't know why I just said centimeters. I really don't understand that. And in the TLX Type S, it's even worse because I really like that car. I'm sort of lukewarm on this, to be honest with you. Like, the price is holding me back and stuff, but overall, I do think that there is a meaningful change that's been made from the regular MDX. See, I'm just not so sure, to be honest with you, that these enhancements in Type S trim make a meaningful enough difference in the MDX's character to justify the like $20,000 price hike. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. Yes, it has the air suspension. Yes, the drive modes are drastically different thanks to that air suspension. But I'm just not sure the engine in this large SUV has the same sort of gut punch specialness that it had in the TLX Type S, which I made a lot of apologies for, and I really like that car. So let's talk about that for a second. So should you buy the Acura MDX Type S as you see it here for $72,000? Well, yes, in as much as you should buy a lot of vehicles that cost $72,000 because you're hoping that you're going to get a lot for your money for $72,000. That is a big ask for something that is more or less an extension of an SUV that sort of plays in the premium market. When I had the Acura MDX A Spec about a year ago, that stickered for $58,000. That was 14 grand cheaper than this MDX Type S. And the main difference, to be honest with you, is the engine and the air suspension. So I think you need to ask yourself, is the engine and the air suspension worth $14,000? Maybe they are. Maybe they are worth it to you, and no judgment if they are. But personally, I'm just not sure they elevate the experience enough to make most mainstream buyers care all that much. When you can buy a Kia Telluride, which is an excellent SUV, for $52,000 maxed, fully loaded, $20,000 difference between this and that is a big ask. Also, let's be honest, the upcoming Lexus RX 500h is packing 366 horsepower in its hybrid powertrain. And I think that's probably gonna come in somewhere around $60,000, maybe $65,000 fully optioned up with all the Mark Levinson and all that kind of stuff. That, to me, is really more where this MDX should live. It should live in competition with that, which is apparently going to be a more powerful luxury SUV. The BMW X5 Plug-in hybrid is faster than this, it handles better than this, and it has a significant EV-only range. And if you skip the M package, you could have it for about the same price. The aforementioned Lexus GX460 is a dinosaur, but it's a dinosaur that has a ton of character, and it can be had for a few $1,000 even less than this fully loaded. You could get a Chevy Tahoe in Premier trim for this price. You could get a pretty much loaded Tesla Model Y for this price if that's what you're into. Let me just put it this way. There's not anything catastrophically wrong with the Acura MDX Type S, but the same could be said for nearly all of its competitors, and even ones that you wouldn't think of, like full-size pickup trucks. It's somehow lacking the charm of the TLX Type S that made me love it despite its flaws. So I don't really have any excuses for the Acura MDX Type S in regards to why you should buy one. And honestly, I wouldn't really offer any, even if I did. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. Let me know in the comments if you think $72,000 is a bit too dear for something like this. I mean, I think the MDX Type S is really good in many ways, but the problem is at the price level it's at, it just elevates it into a stratosphere of many, many, many good vehicles. And so I want to know what you think. Let me know if you would consider this, and if not, what competitors or what other vehicle types would you consider? I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to build this community. If you want to be a part of it, please consider liking and subscribing. And until next time, drive safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. So honestly, just take your time. It's like the slowest planes ever fly over this park. Acura, why don't you have a button for the camera? I have a surround view camera. Why don't you have a button for the camera where I can just press a button and instantly bring on the camera? Oh my God, there's a cyclist. Oh my God, I hate your existence. Oh, there goes the clipboard. Yes, I have notes.